Township board meeting to order. As we begin, we always begin with pledging of allegiance to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Will the clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Kruzak.
Present.
Trustee Kalis.
Present.
Trustee Alford.
Present.
Trustee Fian.
Present.
Supervisor Myers.
Present. We have a full board and we have quorum. We'll begin with matters from the public. Who's signing up to speak? Dan?
Hi, Dan Hagan with the Homer Stallions. First off, we wrapped up the season a couple weeks ago. All 4 teams made it to the playoffs again. 3 of the teams going as far as the semifinals, so another very successful season. Thank you guys for everything. Couple issues up at the complex I'd like to have addressed. One being the windows in the tower. One of the windows blew out and shattered those windows there. I don't know what we're going to do, but they need to be replaced. The second one is the sign, the Larry Kilmer, the Kilmer Field sign. It's rotted out. The top half, or a couple inches, is literally fallen off. So I wanted to know if there was something we could do about that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm aware of your issues. I was of the understanding that the Kilmer sign in Garden was installed by the Stallions.
I talked to a former president this afternoon on the phone. He told me that it was done at a ceremony, that the field was dedicated to Kevin Kilmer through the township. It was the present supervisor at the time that was there.
Me?
No?
Oh, I was going to say.
I think it's before. I think it's
president supervisor. I'm like, no.
No, I said the one at that time that they did the field. Regardless, I mean, Larry Kilmer has been in this community forever, doing so much for it. I don't think it's asking too much to have him replace a sign that means so much to the guy.
No, absolutely, and of course, he's meant a great deal to your organization, for sure.
Absolutely.
We do have other circumstances, like HAC had put in a garden and different stuff that they are responsible for maintaining. I can look into it, but it was always my understanding that, and in fact, the maintenance of the garden has always been done by the Stallions as well. It goes back even before Tony.
It's always been done by Larry.
Yeah, I mean, it was always our understanding that that was something that was allowed, like some of the other gardens that the groups keep up. But, you know, I mean, we can look into it, and whatever the board, you know, directs on.
I think it's well worth looking into. Do you have any idea what a sign might cost?
When I called today, I have a buddy of mine that does those signs. He could have them done for under $500.
Well, we'll have to look,
Yes,
because
to
we
replicate
had signs
the
done
exact same
between
sign.
12 and 14, but
Right.
I don't know what he's looking at.
Now, is that something he can bring to the township, whatever?
No.
Okay.
Well, unless they're gonna pay for it, if we're gonna pay for
I've been told
something.
before that I can't do things up there without the permission of the board.
Well, you can do repairs of your own, whatever you all are taking. I mean, you don't come to us when you wanna replace helmets or, you know, do anything like that. I mean,
Helmet's not a
No,
structure up at the.
anything that is normal.
So I can put in the signs up at the complex?
No, I did not say that. Now, and I'm not gonna get into an argumentative
I don't want to
discussion.
argue.
Well,
I just.
except for Dan, I am speaking, and you just keep jumping in, so I'm trying to answer your question. I'm saying, no, you cannot just put in signs anywhere, but again, it was my understanding that the sign in the garden was the responsibility of the club. If we said we would look into it, we would see, you know, if we can go back and find out, you know, if it was put in by the township, then yes, it could be maintained by the township. We good?
What about the windows?
You know, the windows, obviously that's an issue. The windows are an issue, and I'm well aware of it. I was there when they boarded it up. I know you had brought up a proposal, if I'm not mistaken.
2 years ago, a year and a half ago?
A year ago. Let's just say a year and a half ago. Now with that, if I'm not mistaken, the proposal was for a little over $20,000, if I'm correct. Because
I don't have it anymore, but.
Because if it is, I mean, obviously that's something, because it's not a repair, it's a replace. which we'd have to be held liable for as far as going out to bid or job order contract. Am I
Well,
correct?
if it's over
Or just-
20, just the state law says anything over 20,000 has to go out to public bid. But again, you know, you're right, if it is something that comes out of the job order contracting, I am sure you went and got a proposal so that you would, and you went to the committee to a budgetary estimate. Because anything over 20,000, if we go out to bid, we wouldn't want a bunch of proposals or a bunch of people that might later then want to bid on the project, you know, be involved, because then they might have to be eliminated from the bid. But at any rate, it did go before committee. I don't remember off the top of my head, I wanna say it came here and it was
did go to
sent
committee,
via.
and I do believe it was tabled for the time being because of some issue that may arise, or may be.
The moisture issues
In the
and
tower
stuff.
itself. But I do know the windows need to be done, and I know the frames are wooden and they're rotten, that I do know. So, if the simple fact remains is, I don't know what the cost would be to
Right.
heat, or whatever the case might be in that tower, but I do know if it's agreed upon or anything else to go with like a vinyl clad window, I'm sure that would help from rotting away. Sure. In the, you know, at any time in the near future. Now, maybe this is seen as how, maybe we bring it before committee again. We meet again in December, the first Wednesday, Dan. This way I could put it on the agenda, and then I could talk to supervisor, we could put on the board's agenda for December, and see what the board thinks of that.
Right, whatever comes out of your committee goes on the agenda, like if your
Right,
committee makes
okay.
motions, which is, it was brought here before, and I just wanna make a little correction, they're not wooden windows, they are metal windows, but the interior is wood.
Okay, either or,
That's
okay.
what Strike brought it out though.
Yeah, no, I agree, I'm just saying they're not wooden windows, complete wooden windows.
Have you ordered them now?
One is.
Only one.
Boarded up.
One is, yeah. It got blown out the last heavy wind we had.
The frames are collapsing. There's literally, on a couple of them, there's literally a good inch of frame missing.
Yeah, and,
So can people access the inside of the tower now?
yes, and, you know,
Out of there for now anyway.
really,
I'm
we are,
just wondering if it's a safety issue.
well, I know, but we're not just having general discussion in the audience, is what I'm trying to bring order back into the meeting. Yes,
No,
there's
to your
no
question,
major
They
unsafety.
can't access
You
it.
can't,
No, it's way up high.
I don't know,
Oh,
I don't know what you're talking about.
That's what he was talking about.
He's talking about getting into the
Yeah.
building, oh no, it's on the
Kids
third.
can't climb
Well,
in
kids can
there.
get in anywhere, but it's not a.
No, and in
it's not
fact,
a
to be
threat for
honest
now.
with you, part of the problem is that the windows needed to be locked when the building was not in use, so that it would form a better seal, and they hadn't been locked, and so over the years, in fact, they weren't locked when we went up there that day, not one of them. And over the years, we've asked and stuff too, there's, you know, years ago, not when you, but years ago, people would leave the windows open all season long, too. You know, like when they left the tower and stuff like that. So a lot of the water damage has been there for quite some time on the wood. But again, there is a very high moisture content. The building is used by the stallions only 2 months out of the year. It's not climate controlled, so it is difficult with the wood frames and stuff and all the moisture levels to protect that type of stuff. But again, Ed, it was in your committee, if you wanna bring it back into your committee and do what you gotta do.
Dan, just, I'll put it on the agenda for Wednesday, for December's meeting, the first Wednesday of the month, you know. We'll touch base beforehand, after Thanksgiving to make sure when I break up the agenda before, goes for publication, and we'll put it on the agenda and we'll have a nice discussion, some way to figure this out, because it has been going for some time, I agree, it's been going for some time. And I know the windows are all fogged up on the other side. When I was up there when the wind was blowing out, I did see it, so.
So what do I wait on for the signing?
To see whether, we have the resources, how it's intended to be managed, just a lot of the legwork. Sometimes it doesn't stay in committee very long at all, and they make an advisory motion from the committee once they've done their research. Okay.
We'll touch base, Dan, and we'll put it on the committee's agenda for both.
Thank you.
All right, very good, thank you. All right, let's go on to our accounting. You have been presented your October 2018 accounts payables and receivables, and I would need a motion to address those.
So move.
We have a motion for, to approve the October accounts payables and receivables. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
So we have Kuzak and Fian. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, will the clerk call the roll?
Trustee Fian,
Yes.
trustee Alford,
Yes.
supervisor Myers,
Yes,
trustee Kalis,
Yes.
trustee Krusek.
Yes.
motion carries. We, at this time, have no line item transfers. We also have not received any funding, or requests for funding contributions. I'd like to bring this up to the Highway Commissioner then for his report.
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. In front of you is a levy. Everybody had a copy of that. Does anybody have a chance to look over it? Is there any questions? It's a levy for 2018, or 2018, collectible in 2019. It's gone up. The levy is requesting 5%, just under 5%, or although I'm sure I'll be capped at less than that. It's $4,235,113 for road and bridge, and $618,072 for equipment and building. That is the total of the levy. If nobody has any questions, then.
Are you saying that it's over 5%?
No, it's 4.9.
Because the CPI is 2.1,
Yes.
so it's whatever is less, the CPI or 5%, before you would have to publish and go to public hearing. Are you-
No, they only have to publish is over 4.9. Oh, it's 5%, period.
I'll stand corrected, it was my understanding that the tax levy is the CPI.
Well, the CPI is 2.1, plus then there's the increase in value.
Oh, yeah, if you're not including like new growth, then.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so you're just giving a rounded off general estimate of what.
What it is, and I've tried it years to figure it out, so I wouldn't be capped. It's just not, I mean, whatever I figure out is up to somebody else. It's somebody else's numbers that always works, not mine.
Yeah,
It's the county that determines how much I get.
well, right, as long as you're, the only thing, because we only get estimates
Yes.
for the EAV and new growth and everything at this point, and the finals don't come out until April, so that's all you can do is estimate, and, if you're under, then, you get.
Last year was 2.1, and the levy went out at 4.9% increase. And it did get capped, and then I was told I could have raised it to 7 and still got, I wouldn't have been capped because of the amount of new growth that's
Yeah, we had
there.
a lot of new growth last
But,
year.
I think that's a fair amount, 4.9. It would be around 3.5 is what I'm expecting.
Yeah, I know new growth was down substantially from last year, so, at least on the estimates that we've been provided, so. Well, do I hear a motion to approve the levy?
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Kalis, a second by Alford, to adopt ordinance number HTRD 11-1918, which is the Road and Bridge Highway Department tax levy for the 2018 collectible and 2019 for all road purposes. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, will the clerk call the roll, please?
Trustee Alford,
Yes.
trustee Kalis,
Yes.
trustee Krusek,
Yes.
trustee Fian,
Yes.
supervisor Myers.
Yes. Motion carries.
Thank you. I know in the previous meetings I said we hadn't got our salt bid. Finally came in. It's an extension of last year's bid. We're at, I believe, $46 a ton, which, relatively speaking, is a lot of money, but let's hope for a mild year and I won't spend any money there. We've already been out once. We went out 10 days ago with an abbreviated crew. We had a bit of a weather event and we wanted to make sure that the mains were ready for school the next day, and we didn't have an issue. We monitored the streets over the last weekend and didn't have to go out because the snow that fell down that melted right away. We seem to be in good shape. I looked at the long range 2 weeks out. They're not calling for any weather right now, but that could always change. As I said before, The jet streams this year are set up to bring us in a lot of those they call clippers out of Canada, which means it'll be a big nuisance year. Other than that, we're okay. I'm still down 2 employees, and as of right now, I don't have any plans to replace them due to budgetary reasons. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Karen's not here. Let's go on to our clerk, Lindsay.
Requesting a motion to approve the October 15th regular board meeting minutes.
Do I hear a second?
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Kruzak, second by Kalis, to approve the October 15th regular board meeting minutes. Any discussion on the minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstained? Motion carries.
As far as elections go, we had about 2,652 people take advantage of early voting at Homer Township over the 2 weeks that we offered it, with an average of about 250 voters per day. I just wanted to say thank you to the township staff, Mary Pat, Donna, and Cynthia, who are integral to assisting in early voting. It was a great turnout, really went off without any hitches thanks to their help, so yeah, busy couple weeks. Other than that, we're pending on record destruction now that the early voting is over. We'll move forward with that. The FOIA report for October is presented in your board packet. And then the 2019 board meeting dates, there's a proposed schedule that's been included in your board packets. So I'm seeking a motion to adopt that 2019 schedule.
So moved.
We have a motion
Second.
by Kruzak, second by Alden. All those, any discussion, excuse me? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay? Abstain? Motion carries, sorry.
A schedule of the committee dates will be compiled and posted, and I will bring that back forward to the board once we've done that. So I'll be reaching out to everyone in the next couple of weeks to get, your meeting information if anyone plans on changing anything or anything like that. So other than that, that's all I've got.
Thank you. We'll go on to the supervisor's report. The IDOT extension for the temporary construction easement. The documents have been executed and returned to IDOT, and now we're just waiting for executed copies and the payment. As you may be aware, we have a new law, Public Act 100-0983, which revolves around the clerk now attesting to a supervisor's signature. There's been a lot of issues when I was down in Springfield last week. There are a lot of unresolved issues, so we will work with our township attorney. I am waiting for a little bit more of an update yet from township officials of Illinois. There was some disagreement about how it needs to go. The act is effective January, I believe, 1st of 2019, so we still have enough time to deal with it. On PACE, the PACE had called a meeting, as they always do, for their renewals. Unfortunately, I had already had a meeting with another entity and was not able to go. They were not able to reschedule. To the best of my knowledge, the changes that they made in the terms of our agreement are that instead of just 24 hours notice, PACE did agree to allow 3 days notice, 3 days in advance of scheduling a trip, and they would still honor up until the trip if they were able to accommodate it, but they did make that change. I believe that was the major change in that. So you have been presented that contract and also the schedule and the changes that I mentioned. So at this time, I would request a motion directing the supervisor to execute the Dail-a-ride local share agreement.
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion by Kalis. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Fian. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, will the clerk call the roll, please? Sure.
Supervisor Myers,
Yes.
trustee Kalis,
Yes.
trustee Grzak,
Yes.
trustee Alford,
Yes.
trustee Dean.
Yes.
Motion carries. Then I have provided you with a copy of a proposal submitted to us from American Tower Corporation. That is the tower directly behind the administrative offices. They do this from time to time, and basically, they just have a lease with us. They do not own the property that the tower is currently sitting on. And they are always hoping to get a more permanent, long-term lease from the township, and then, they'll offer like a one-time lump sum amount that might be tempting. In this case, they're offering a lump sum payment, and they're also offering a monthly installment payment over 120 months, whichever. They're proposing either or. Just to give you a little background, we are currently receiving $37.33 approximately per month for that tower through 2026. So we already have a lease for a temporary easement, and by the end of 2026, the amount graduates. By the end of the 2026, it would be up to about $4,300 per month. I am recommending against a perpetual lease or easement for them for a few reasons. We do maintain a little bit of control with them. There are times that they do have people coming in and out, or that they have done work that involves our property. They have things set up on timers. The machines make a huge amount of noise, and when they don't have the timer set up appropriately, it's very difficult for our office to work and maintain. It also gives us a level of control over what they actually do there. So my own personal opinion is I would prefer not to have a perpetual easement with them. But I would leave or entertain a motion from the board as to what they wish to do.
I'll make a motion, we go with the monthly installment payment.
So giving them a permanent easement, or just staying with the, see, we already have a lease. Let me clarify, we already have a lease, we're already pulling in quite a bit. They want a permanent, they want to permanently own the land basically easement of the land for these amounts that they're proposing.
They're both perpetual.
On this paper, but we already have a lease with them that is valid until 2026.
Okay.
So you don't have to accept their offer, or
Then I'll
or you
withdraw.
may, whatever you wish to do.
I'll withdraw my motion.
Okay. Does anybody have any, so basically just stay with the current lease?
Yes.
That's the consensus? Okay. We don't need to vote on that, right?
No, not for that.
Not for making changes? Okay, thank you very much. I want to make sure that you guys do that. No action. Okay, and then I have presented to you information concerning something we've been working on for a while for the administration center's phone system. It does include the entire building, the assessor's office, and the regular administration building. I'm sure you've had a chance to look through some of the proposals. I am going to recommend replacement of the antiquated phone system and service as recommended by our township IT professionals. That would mean that we would not renew the contract with AT&T, and the cost from the savings with the call-centric option, which was the lowest proposal, is estimated to be approximately $75,000 over 5 years. That would, provide also with the increased services, and we would have equipment that we could actually replace when the phone cords go, or, you know, the headset had gone, whatever, they're so antiquated, we can't even do that. I know when the village updated their, phone system, they gave us a few of their old phones, so we could, actually replace some of our, earpieces and stuff like that. So we're pretty much out of that. And as you would see from AT&T, I mean, they are just getting outrageous, you know, to raise our bills this amount, is just outrageous. And we've tried to work with them, we just have not been able to do it. So I think it's time to make a change, which is why we started investigating all of this. So at this time, I will need a motion from the board directing whichever option they would like to move forward with.
I'd like to make that motion for you to approve the call-centric option.
Okay, so we have a motion from Kalis for the call-centric option of the phone upgrade and the VoIP service through our IT professionals. Do I
I'll
hear a
second.
second?
I'll
And
second.
we have a second. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Kruzak.
Yes.
Trustee Alford.
Yes.
Supervisor Myers.
Yes.
Trustee Fian.
Yes.
Trustee Kalis.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously. Okay, and then going on to Homerfest 2019. I mean, everything is pretty much written out here. We had brought some information to you after John and I had a meeting with Trustee Caprio and Mayor Yukich last month. Then the interim village manager has contacted us. She provided us with a draft IGA, which was different from the amounts and the terms that I brought to you for consensus last month. I have provided you with copies of that. Again, the village manager also is hoping that we can discuss this in November and have a final draft of the IGA ready for the December meeting. I believe she was also planning to bring this before the village's board in November for discussion, and then has the same timeline, which would be hoping to get an IGA for December. So I'm not sure how we want to move forward with this. If anybody has any discussion or any questions.
This draft of the IG, I read it several times. I see no problem with it personally. It's up to the board, of course, their decision. I know they had raised our cost of it by 10,000, if I'm not mistaken, to 20,000 instead of 10,000. Which, if it's budget, I don't see a problem with that. And as long as the village is going to take all of the responsibility and liabilities, I don't see anything wrong with this IGA at all, personally. I don't know if any of the
Well, you
other
did notice
trustees have
too that the full budget is listed in here and the
any-
liability.
And what I see in our board packet, yes.
Yeah, from our old IGA, none of us were responsible for an amount not to exceed.
Right.
So that amount has gone up tremendously
Yes, it
from
has. Yes.
the previous IGA. Anybody else got anything or that they would like to?
Yeah, I don't like this whole thing. I don't like the idea that we're supposed to have 20,000, but we can go up to, what is it, 36,000. I don't know if you can even file a contract that way legally. And I don't know if the village can sign our name to a contract that we are going to be responsible
What
for.
contract are you talking about?
Well, they're going, according to this, the Homer Glen is going to sign all the contracts.
Okay,
They can't sign our name to contract.
they weren't planning on it. It's on their property, they're strictly liable for everything, administration of the bills, signing of the contracts, it's basically just to streamline all the paperwork. Now, again, if this is a co-sponsored event, and honestly, if, it takes all the liability off of us and it streamlines the
It
paperwork.
never takes the liability off of us.
Well, as far as signing the contract, it does, because it is all on village property. That's just the way it is.
Yeah, but it
Because
was
it's on
on
village
township
property,
property for the first 5 or 6 years.
7 years, actually.
And everybody's liable. Anybody
Yeah,
that's on
absolutely.
an agreement
I
is gonna
understand
be
that.
liable for it. So to have the village be able to sign off on everything without our knowledge or supervisor's knowledge of it, it seems ludicrous to me to allow that to just happen. Just have them
Like I said,
sign
that's
off
my
on all this
opinion.
stuff because
It's
our.
absolutely my opinion. I've been on this committee since almost day one. I
it
don't
does
see
say
an
liability
issue with it,
sharing.
but then again, it's up to the town, it's up to the board, so that's just my opinion.
And it does say liability sharing in that the village
Well,
and the
I think if
township.
the liability of
Share.
sharing, obviously, that's the way it was
Sharing and-
was laid out.
With
is
making
to
sure
be, is to be shared, but it
as
should
additionally
have,
insured.
it should have both signatures by both,
I
both
look
in
at it
charge,
two different things.
supervisor and the mayor.
The village is
That's
going,
what was discussed in our meeting, that's how it was proposed to us in
I
the
don't
meeting.
know, I wasn't privy to that meeting. I wasn't invited as chair.
Well, we
of the-
couldn't do that, we couldn't do that.
What,
We
do
couldn't do
what?
that.
Do what?
We couldn't invite you to the meeting,
Why not?
because you're the chairman of the committee.
So is Carlo.
You're not the chairman. Keith is the chairman.
Carlos.
Carlo's the
co-chair.
chairman.
Carlo and Keith are
Get
co-chairs.
it straight. Carlo's the chairman. Keith is the
I was
co-chair.
informed that Gray was a
And
co-chair.
you know what, quite honestly, this whole
We
thing
could
is
only
irrelevant.
have, we were invited to a meeting.
Right.
And we could not violate our quorum without posting the meeting. And we were asked to come by the mayor, and the mayor said he was bringing a trustee, and I said I would bring a trustee as well.
Well,
I
that's
brought
fine,
my
like I
senior
said,
trustee.
that's water under the bridge. I mean, what at
That
hand
was
here is the IGA. Now, I made my statement, I mean, it's up to the board now.
Right.
Now, if they wanna reword something and send it to the attorney, you know, that's okay. I mean, that's what we're here for. My opinion is, I don't see anything wrong with this IGA. It's on village property. We're still co-sponsoring this event, I mean, so we're still very much knee-deep in this. But in order to streamline everything, let's put it this way, it's no different, I consider it no different, and you guys can look at it any way you guys want to, but I consider it no different than the IGA with Harvest Days, where the administration was all done by the
That's not
township.
That's true.
You know, I have a copy of that sign, I mean,
It doesn't matter what the IGA signed, the village
isn't that what
signed,
we're talking about, the IGA here?
the mayor signed our contracts with Home and Harvest.
You know?
I have copies in the office, they're welcome to them anytime.
I'm just looking at this, you know, and this is how I read it. Again, that's just my opinion coming from myself as chairman of the.
I'm not arguing with you, I just wanted to clarify that it is different from anything we've done before. Terry, is it possible for us to have this level of liability? I know you haven't been presented everything, so this is fresh for you, but is it possible for us to have this amount of liability and not see or execute any of the contracts we're responsible for?
Well, first of all, you have to decide what type of liability are you talking about? Are you talking about liability for an injury or an action? And if you're talking about liability for an injury or an action, and everything is on their property, we have an IGA, it might depend on the question of whether or not we exert any control over the operation of it. And it doesn't necessarily have to be just this document. It could be through, you know, volunteers, committees, that sort of thing. And in terms of the contract, it would be highly unusual because this is an agreement between us, and I just briefly looked through it, but it's basically a sharing of contributions and profits in all administrative and operative functions seem to be with the village. Therefore, it would be highly unlikely, although I wouldn't totally exclude it, that we would be responsible on a contract in the sense that they entered into a written contract. There's an allegation of a breach, and you know, it goes from there. So you have to decide what kind of liability and understand that rarely are you ever totally insulated from liability if you operation of something like this.
All right, so, what does the board want us to do? Does the board want us to, what could I do?
Madam Supervisor, may I interject?
I would have preferred you to sign in, but yes, I think
I can
if the
sign in
board,
if you'd
hold
like.
on a second. If the board is all right with, Mr. Gray speaking?
I'm fine.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure, Keith.
So, a few of you are okay with the language in there as it is right now, and a few aren't. And that language was basically picked up from the Homer Harvest Days IGA, which says, all contracts, agreements, bills, invoices, and other expenses shall be reviewed by the committee in advance and put forth to the township for final review, approval, and execution by the township supervisor. In accordance with the township's traditional accounting procedures, the town board will review the bills at their monthly meeting, yada, yada, yada. Everybody's
Now,
got a
that
copy
was
of
the old Homer Harvest Day.
That's correct. That's that is the signed Harvest Days contract from the last iteration of Harvest Days.
That was the old Harvest Day.
The last IGA for Homerfest reads that everything will be signed off by both boards, both insurers, both legal counsel, township, and the village, as well as maybe even the road district. I can't remember on
Yes.
the old ones. So we're trying to streamline the process, since before it was a three-legged race, no doubt, between the road district, township, and the village. It was on road district land, using road district personnel, village personnel. There was a lot of back and forth. Now it's all on the village property. The road district is asking to be, removed from the contract portions of that and wants to just be a vendor essentially to us. So now it becomes an IGA between the township and the village. Basically, this is exactly the same as Harvest Days, because it's still just a two-entity IGA, and the IGA for Homer Harvest Days said that the township would be responsible for everything. Now, with all due respect, Madam Supervisor, if you say that you have contracts that the mayor has signed off on every one, I know that Trustee Caprio has asked for copies of those, and we've yet to see
I
them.
offered to provide them to him,
And
and I just wanted
I
to make
believe
sure.
the clerk had offered to give them to him, and he's told me just as recently
Right,
as yesterday
we
that he's
have
yet to
offered.
get them.
Yes, we have offered to provide him copies.
So I believe he's still waiting for those, so. But with all due respect, if you
well-
did offer to have the mayor sign something, according to the language I just read you, that was nothing but a courtesy on your part. If you had any question on any bill that came before you for Harvest Days, and you said, how should I handle this? I know I'll refer to the IGA, and you read that, you would say, it's well within my purview to sign that.
I don't agree with you, Chief. The truth of the matter is the administration, the stuff that was being done, and to be honest with you, all of these IGA copies came to the township from the village. The village prepared these IGAs. The village was very, very active in Harvest Days, and also the mayor has signed. It was different. Harvest Days is a little different because there isn't as many contracts as there are. There isn't as many vendors and people being paid to do things and stuff, so it was different. And yes, I did offer, and I will be happy to provide you with a copy of my response to Carlo, the email that I sent to him immediately when he said that the village could not find one document that was signed by the mayor. And we have actually emails showing all the documents, all the vendors, all the applicants being transmitted to the village. And in fact, things were carried over. Our staff has records as well. So I don't know
Trustee Suisse also said that in some
who was our
occasions,
co-chair.
the co-chair actually transferred documents to the village, so to hear that you guys don't have documents is.
Or that you were never signed them or been provided
Because
anything is not
I have
accurate.
Does the language in the IGA not say, though, that it's entirely your prerogative to sign those or to share them?
I don't believe it does, and I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm not an attorney, so I'm not gonna interpret the language of the IGA. I can tell you what we did. I can tell you that when I met with Anne Marie, what she had made clear to me in my office was that they felt that the village would totally execute all of the contracts, that in fact some of the contracts had already been executed.
Right.
I believe the carnival and the fireworks.
Right.
Now, I don't know if those are those contracts executed to be in the village's name only? Or do they also include Homer Township in the
They
contract?
do not, they are, if you don't mind my approaching out, you can take these.
No, I don't
Take
mind,
them.
we just hadn't
There's
seen
just copies
them.
of both of those are our action items from our meeting where we passed both of those.
Okay.
So those, you can see they are in just the
Okay.
village's name.
And
And there was,
Anne Marie was,
right,
I
in
wanna-
addressing you, I was hoping to cover two more points. One was that the waters might be a little bit muddier now because we have already executed a contract with the carnival as well as the fireworks in order to secure those dates. So that's something that certainly, the attorney would need to, you should all be aware of before you go jumping in, that some of these things have already been let. The other thing is to address the money issue. Those numbers have climbed a little bit, and we've realized that the budgeting has changed. There was always the bit that if the event didn't come off and had to be canceled for whatever reason, the day before, 2 days before, you'd still be out so much money. The tents were up, you'd have to pay for that, the stage, certain vendors and bands. So Sue Silent has done yeoman's work in pulling together that budget and trying to find out what that number is. It's a hard number because it's all based on weather and how many people show up. But that number is based on so much money that we lay out, and that what we can't get back if we decide to pull the plug. So that's where that 75-25 was coming from, and where it might be as high as 80,000, might be a 60 and a 20.
To be fair, we've known that for
Right,
a while.
right,
as
and it
well,
was just trying to
and
get it
IGA
into
has
language
never
that
been
everybody could sign off on, so.
we knew that the budget
Right.
was off from the IGA. I think for me, what the difference is from the previous IGA is, and again, whether it was right or whether it was wrong, this board has always seen the language in an amount not to exceed, and I believe it was 40,000, 10 and 30. So when you look at what I believe the board needs to be looking at is there is no more basic in an amount to exceed in the language, and basically that moves us up on the maximums, 108,750. It moves the numbers up. So that's what the board needs to look at. The board needs to look at these types of things. And as we would always do, we would always have our, consult with our insurer and consult with our attorney. I got stuff very late and did not have a chance to look at the old one compared to the other one and stuff. And as I told Anne Marie, when she had spoken with me, and then actually she just sent me the actual one just recently. And I don't even know if it's the same one as before or what's going on. So we normally would check with our attorney, would go through all of this stuff and look, but I'm trying to keep with what I promised her, which was the timeline of at least presenting it to the board in our November meeting, so.
Obviously, since the carnival's already done and the fireworks are done, there isn't no major, excitement to have this done now, let's say.
Well, there's still other things that we're trying to look into getting pricing and getting competitive bids on and things like that. So we are gonna need to start wrapping some of that up and
Right.
securing some
I'm
of
just a
those
little
dates.
cautious in taking the responsibility, and you gotta
Sure.
understand, we have, our constituents are parts of Lockport and parts of Lamont, that's what we control. So for us to take the liability from those people on something that we have no control over in even signing it, that kinda haunts me a little bit. I mean, I get it,
I just too wanted to just clarify when Anne Marie, this is what I wanted to say before, and you said you wanted to finish, she explained to me that she's new, she is new to all of this, she's the interim manager, so she didn't have answers to, some of the questions about whether or not we would even see contracts, or whether they were just strictly going to be administered by the village, whether we would know who was participating, what was going on. And I think everybody's just kind of got a concern about how can we agree to do something, without knowing what the something is, the details of the something. So I don't know, maybe there is a way to do that and maybe it can be done, but it seems like that is the concern.
I would like to throw something into the mix. If the concern is the potential liability on written contractual agreements, there's a vehicle to remedy that, and that's an indemnification clause, which basically says that since the village is signing and is controlling, they will indemnify and hold us harmless from any liability that may arise as a result of those contracts. So you can cover that end of it. The liability end is a little bit more complicated because that brings into question insurance coverages. Sometimes indemnification agreements, particularly when you have significant amount of insurance on both ends, are intentionally avoided.
Thank you, Jerry. All right.
I know the mayor was adamant on us being, you know, part of this and participating in this, and we all do, because it's a community event.
Right.
But would it behoove us to maybe think of maybe even just sponsoring the event? I mean, it takes the liability out of it. I mean, if you're taking full control and signing contracts, I don't know. I mean, is it
You mean like a
something that?
sponsor, like
Yeah,
Myers
we'll
or something
just
like
be a
that?
sponsor. The township's a sponsor of the Homerfest. And then technically it takes us out of any kind of intergovernmental agreement.
We had discussed that at committee before
Yes.
too, also, a couple of months ago, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't know, I think trustee Fian had brought up that kind of question too. Is it, would that be something that we should think about? Obviously, we don't want to, it's not like we're bailing out of the fest. I mean, obviously, it's been moved and it's advancing into the village, wants to take more control over it, and we get it, but for us to have things signed that we have no control over, maybe we're better off to just say, hey, we're gonna be a sponsor. This is just something I'm throwing out that we can kind of talk about, you know, instead of having to worry about intergovernmental agreements.
Right, well, and I would just say that if it is something that, since we're kind of in this time frame crunch here, if that is something that the board is seriously thinking about before we start expending a lot of energy and legal fees and everything to go through this, is that something that everybody would be serious enough to say they want to be a sponsor and set up a certain amount of money or whatever and make, you know, some sort of a motion tonight? Or is that something that, you know, would you want us to explore this a little bit more? I mean, whatever the board wants is okay with me.
That was a consensus of the committee, like I said several months ago, not having an IGA because the village was gonna take basically total control over it. And when I brought it here, it was just a consensus. I was told that it was kind of premature of the committee to do that. Now, I mean, to me, again, this
Wait a minute.
IGA is okay.
You brought that to this board?
Yes, I did. If you look at the minutes, yes, I did. Because it came right after a meeting, and I brought it to the
The
board.
meeting that I was at?
No, yes, actually, yes, the meeting that you were at.
Yeah, because you were trying to bring something that was totally
The meeting that
different.
you were at,
You were trying to
it
bring
came
the
from
motion from the fest meeting that I was at.
Yeah, the first meeting that you
That
were at,
wasn't a
the consensus
sponsorship.
was that there would be no IGA from the committee, just to basically streamline the contractual part of this whole thing.
Well, and it also said that we were going to be doing other things though. We were going to be providing volunteers, I can't remember the exact motion, but it was in the, you know.
Either way, it was said it was premature.
I don't have the copies here with me, but it was not to be a sponsor like Myers.
Well, I mean, as far as a sponsor, how would you construe the sponsor? Would we still keep the same money and just be a
No,
sponsor?
you wouldn't get any money. You would just agree to, well, what does Meyer do? If there's a slot open for, I don't know, $5,000-$10,000 for the beer tent or whatever it does, they get a banner and they give them whatever money they signed up for and agree to do, and that's it. There's no other contractual agreements, no liability. No, you get a little recognition for supporting the event.
If it loses
And the
money,
village
we
can
don't
do
pay it.
whatever
If
they
it
wanna
makes
do.
money, we don't get it.
Right.
I mean, that's about what it boils down to.
But again, if you're in a situation where either committees or other, subunits are participating in the control of it, then the issue of liability still could come back in the
Okay.
lap.
So in other words, we would have to have no members on a joint committee
Well,
and just be a
to the
sponsor.
extent that these committees exercise control, you may be exposed.
Well, if they're not representing the township, if they're just committee members, I mean, anybody can be a
Right, if
committee
we don't have
member.
a joint committee and those members were just appointed by the village, that wouldn't
No, I'm
matter.
talking about township.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Right.
But, I mean, Ed is on the committee, if he chooses to stay on the committee as
An appointee of the
a
village.
committee of the village, he's not representing the township. He's
Right.
just part of the board, he's just part of the committee on the
Yeah,
village
so
side.
He's not acting
They
in,
would have to acquire everybody that's on there, they would have to
Yeah.
just absorb.
if they're not acting in any official capacity, is that correct? Then that would remove, I mean, because we have people that serve on other
Right.
village
No,
committees.
that's a
and-
fair statement.
Okay, okay. So I mean, it's up to you guys, you know, you can do whatever you wanna do, you can make a motion, you can table things, you can, you know, but I just don't know how you want to.
Is this something that we can think about, and, I mean, is this something that can be brought up in
Yeah,
December's
because
meeting, and?
we're gonna discuss it, like, Chairman, Supervisor Meyer said, our interim village manager has this slated on our November 28th, agenda for us to discuss it. So we're not even gonna vote on it, and then it's gonna come back before you all on your December meeting for a vote.
I'm sure Mayor,
Hopefully for
you're
a vote,
just
and
gonna
then
have
we'll-
some questions too, because I know he was very adamant about keeping it together, but if there's certain situations that are coming up, I would even like to explain it myself to him
Right,
on
sure.
my point of this,
Right.
you know,
Yeah,
of
and,
this
and
discussion.
to Trustee Callis's point, I mean, these are all good suggestions, they all came up in our committee meetings. And like you said, some of them, you know, we, by consensus, we said either we're jumping the gun or we're foisting something upon this board, which we don't really have the right to do, you know, let you guys get to that point on your own. We asked Supervisor Meyer, when we talked to her about giving, you know, a bunch of options, or asking, say, I believe I even said, you know, here's how I see it, there's this and that, and I said, but you know what, your board might see a third option that I don't even see, so, you know, let them propose something back to us, so.
And I did.
I know, no, I'm not saying you
No,
didn't.
no, I'm agreeing with you actually, Keith, and I did actually, you know, waited, like George had asked me to, we had the meeting with Carlo and that, we did actually bring, to our board, was it last month or the month? You know, so it's not like the board now is just for the first time hearing anything about it, and so I know that everybody's been thinking and talking and doing what they need to do. The only little caveat, and it may just be just that, just little, is Anne Marie had expressed to me that if we were going to recommend any changes to the IGA, it would have to be ready and everything ready by December. So I guess where I'm coming from with all of you is I personally am looking for some direction, because again, you know, I don't know if we want to spend a lot of time, you know, looking through the IGA and having the attorney review it and make changes if you're looking at going in another direction. That's on me, the supervisor, you know, looking for. And, you know, we really can't, you know, unless we were to have some sort of a special meeting, we really can't do a lot of this deliberating outside of the board meeting either. So, I mean.
It has to be done by December, or just sometime in December?
Well, she was asking that it be ready by that we be ready. Now, again, she's asking, it doesn't have to be that way, but
I would feel
she's asking.
comfortable, I'm sure there's gonna be conversations with Mary Yukich too.
Okay.
Obviously, I would feel more comfortable in actually having that time.
Okay.
I don't wanna make any decision today, myself.
Okay. Is that kind of the consensus
But whatever the board wants.
of the board at this
I
point?
agree.
Need more time to investigate and go for it. All right, so for my direction though, at this point, you're not looking for me to do a lot more with our attorney at this point, just wait and see
Yeah.
till next month? Okay.
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
No, then I think wait and see where it goes. Fine, that's fine.
Oh, okay, I thought you had something else, sure. All right. Okay, well then, that pretty much brings us to the end of that particular discussion. Let's hope we can just move through the rest of these a little bit faster. I don't have any update for you on the website at this point. The employee medical insurance, our coverage plans, we were presented, the highway commissioner, the assessor, and myself, were presented from Vista National, the annual cost renewal and their market or carrier comparison analysis for 2019 coverage. The analysis from the other carriers, I can't remember what they were off the top of my head, but I want to say it was like Humana and a couple of the major ones that would give us figures would result in a significant increase in cost. And maybe a little bit of difference in coverage, but basically the cost. The option that we all agreed on was to remain with our current carrier, which is Blue Cross and Blue Shield, and it was a minor increase of 0.19%. The only unfortunate thing, and this wouldn't matter no matter what carrier we went with, is because of ACA, we have to go in line with the metallic plans that they line up for everybody, and that is also resulting in higher deductibles and individual co-pays for our employees. So while the cost of the insurance hasn't raised tremendously every year so far, our employees are getting higher and higher deductibles and less coverage. So that's your update on that. As far as the Caton Farm Bruce Road SRA and the intergovernmental agreement we have for that, it's my understanding that the first phase of the new study for the middle alignment has been completed, and the Will County DOT has arranged for a TCC subgroup, which is Lockport, Homer Glen, and Homer Township meeting, which is going to take place on November 28th. And we're going to go over the results before we make any kind of a formal decision or presentation in the TCC. So we are finally getting somewhere. I mean, the Caton Farm Bruce Road thing has been a very long road. So whatever the results are is what we're going to be working with. And on the financial portion of it, I have put together the levy. I've tried to hear what you all have told me, which is basically that you would like to continue to either keep the rates the same or lower, and I believe what I've prepared and given to you does that. Basically, we're able to capture a little bit of new growth, and my calculations are projecting that for 2018, our rate would be approximately 0.0941. It is lower than last year. I'm trying to find my notes on this. I do believe I have it somewhere there. We have successfully lowered our taxes and the tax rate over the years since 2013 at least, and this would do the same thing. The one thing is last year I estimated at 0.0954, and the actual tax rate for Homer Township was 0.0950. So I've gotten pretty skilled at my estimating these years, and so I think unless there's some major changes, the rate I gave to you is going to be pretty right on. In 2012, our tax rate was at 0.1779. Now we will be at 0.0941. We've decreased it every year. It's resulted on that line item in decreases in the actual tax itself. Sometimes it's only a couple dollars, sometimes it's 10, 15, but we've been able to do it, and we've also been able to continue to provide the services that, for the most part, I mean, we can never make everybody happy. Now I will say, in this budget, what I have done with the idea that a lot of the park improvements that have been brought to my attention, or goals for them, with the fact that our park reserve amounts, which would cover any improvements for grants, any matching fund stuff, the reserve has been getting less and less, and we haven't really been able to put money aside with the new requests and stuff. What I have requested, and I did do all the max rate calculations, I did all the PTAL calculations, and every calculation I did put the bulk of our new requests, should we get it from the county, into the park fund. So, that being said, I would need a motion to move forward with the levy.
I'll make the motion to adopt ordinance HT 2018-1119-ORD1.
Okay,
No second.
we have a motion by Kruzek, a second by Kalis. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, will the clerk call the roll, please?
Supervisor Myers?
Yes.
Trustee Kalis?
Yes.
Trustee Olford?
Yes.
Trustee Fian?
Yes.
Trustee Kruzek?
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously. Okay, then going on to property tax abatement. In addition to this other good news that we tell you, that we're lowering your rates and we're trying to be very good stewards of your tax dollars, we are also proposing, I as supervisor have reviewed the finances of the Founder Crossing Senior Housing Facility, and I'm determining that the township has funds lawfully available to pay the principal of and the interest on the township's $2,365,000 general obligation refunding bond series 2012A dated June 14th, 2012, in a sum equal to the annual levy of certain ad valorem property taxes pledged to the payment of the bonds due in 2019. I am going to recommend to the board the abatement of any of those taxes for the bond, and I will present the ordinance at the December board meeting. Unless the board has any disagreement, we have been able to be good stewards of Farmers Crossing. The rents are paying for it, and we don't have to tax our citizens again another year. We will abate those taxes. Any disagreement with me? Next month, you will get the actual abatement, and you will have a formal vote. On the budget, it's, it's like a whole cycle, you work on one thing, and you just got the levy done, and now we're gonna start working on our budget for our fiscal year 18-19. Some of the things have been brought forward here tonight. We've had other issues brought forward on and off throughout the year, different funds, different things. Now is the time, as I ask you every year before I prepare the budget, for you committee chairmen and you trustees to help me and work with me, and we can develop a budget, hopefully, that can fit as much improvements and as much repairs and what have you as we can. I would go on to our facilities management, senior housing. All the rents and leases are current. There's no vacant units to date. Our fall maintenance program and inspections are wrapping up. At Culver Park Pond, the IEPA retrofit grant provided you with a quarterly report prepared by HR Green. We're continuing to go through the audit and management stages of the grant in-house in the administration center. The Paul Farm parcel, the board had already approved 3 trees be removed there, and that work has been completed. Tina Farm, the roofing and restoration work on the granary was completed. We are still waiting, the contractor is still waiting for the appropriate weather conditions to conduct prescribed burning, which was approved by this board, I believe, last spring. On all properties, our maintenance department, the seasonal laborers have all been dispatched and eliminated for the year, unless we would have some major call-outs for storms, blizzards, things like that. Don't have anything further on the facilities use, and that will bring us on to our township liaison reports, unless there are any questions for me. Hearing none, I would ask Linda Gary, our liaison for the Homer Chamber, if she would like to report to us.
I will report. I don't know if you guys, any of you have heard, but we are in the process of merging with Lamont. It will not be the Homer Glen Chamber of Commerce anymore. It will be the Heritage Corridor Business Alliance.
Wow, Heritage
We have
Corridor.
already elected a board.
Heritage Corridor Business Alliance.
We've already elected a board that's a combination of Lamont and Homer Glen, or Homer Township people. And we're targeting February 1st for an actual, say...
Like installation?
Yeah, installation will hopefully happen in February.
All right.
To get
So
this going.
you didn't get new stationery or anything from the last time you changed the name, did you?
Some, but not a lot, right? We were still trying to use it up, which was good because that didn't last that long. And you talked about it, chambers are an old idea, so hopefully this is really gonna, we're gonna, a much bigger group. Lamont's thriving chamber, and the fee structure is gonna stay the same. In fact, those bills should go out in the next 2 weeks, so you'll see them. So anybody have any questions? But maybe I couldn't answer anyway.
Well, you can try. So basically you're merging with just Lamont's
With
chamber.
just
They're
Lamont
existing
at this time.
at this time, but while the name is
Yes.
it signifies a lot of growth.
Yes.
Wow, very, very good. And so then you would have elected board members from both bodies. Is
There's
that how that
5
works?
from Homer and 5 or 6 from Lamont, but that odd one, I've suggested, we'll see what happens, a longtime member of both chambers. which to me would be absolutely fair, so.
Anybody else got any questions for me?
What's the advantage of this?
A bigger group has more power, it's more attractive
As to,
as to being, to help the business, that's the purpose of the chamber, is more like networking and promoting business.
Very exciting. So you're gonna try and do totally different things? Cause I know you guys always had like the expo and you had like Christmas, or you're just gonna let it go its way, right?
I don't know the answer to that yet. I mean, we're still having, the magical lunch is gonna happen, I don't know if you guys
No.
have gotten, okay, I'll make sure that I forward you the email.
Oh, yeah, so I haven't
Because
received
that's out
anything.
there,
Okay,
okay, but otherwise, you know, there aren't any plans as of yet.
okay, good, good.
Okay.
So really not until like that February 1st
Yeah.
thing. And I'm sure that you will keep us
And
informed.
I'm not gonna be on the board,
Oh,
so
wow.
I was not elected, well, no, I wasn't.
Wow.
Mhm.
But you will still be a part of it. I
Yes,
can't
I will.
see you not being a part
No,
of
they
something
still
you've
think I'm gonna run the installation.
done for a while. Well, that's what I was
And-
gonna ask you.
And
so-
then when we get to it, we will have separate, state of the village.
Oh,
That
okay.
won't combine.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and then you will keep us informed as to this event on February 1st and whether it's open to the
Yes.
public or what?
Mhm.
Okay. Very
Okay?
good, Lynn, thank you so much. All right. Yeah, that's my agenda. I don't, Karen's not here, and you know, Karen is normally very good about telling me if she's not gonna be here, so I hope she's well. She wasn't in work today, and so perhaps she's under the weather. It's my understanding, though, that her and the different groups she works with participated in the veterans event at Cone House with the village,
yeah.
and the newspapers have all raved everybody that has gone and said it was very good, and
300 to 400 people there.
yeah.
Like 40 or plus vets that at least got up and sat down to take the picture. There were probably more, you know how active people
Yeah.
are, and some of the younger guys who they're not necessarily, they don't want to banner their service. So I think there were actually more
I'm sure.
more vets in the crowd. But it was a good event, so it was good activity by Karen's groups, the VFW and the American Legion,
Yeah.
and the Boy Scouts did yeoman's work. The sheriff's honor guard
Yeah,
did
sheriff's
the 21 gun salute and
It's
the
awesome.
taps, so it was beautiful.
Very good. Thank you so much, Keith. I'll be sure to tell Karen.
Well,
She owes
please.
you a coffee.
I'll report for Karen, but it was Beth's event.
It was.
And actually Christina, because
It was. It's just that Karen is
Right.
kind of our
Right.
liaison, you know, keeping us abreast with the veterans activities, and so I wasn't. I was unfortunately not able to be there. I was out of
Yeah,
town
you
in
weren't.
Springfield.
Yeah.
I had told Beth, yes, but I heard it was very good. I saw some pictures and you know the vets that stood up and stuff. So yeah, thank you so much. All right, let's go on to our township committee reports and our events chairman, Lindsay Sowa.
Yep, just wanna say thank you to the township board members for agreeing to co-sponsor the party with the Homer Township Public Library for Halloween this year. Supervisor Myers and I were there, and they had, well over 200 participants attending, which was more than we had initially planned for, so yeah, it was packed. The township board, sponsored some characters and some, you know, treat bags and goodies and stuff for the kids, and it just went over really well, so thank you to everybody for that, and to the library for partnering with us. We always have really good success working with them,
Yeah.
so.
And they did
Yeah.
do, you know, so
did the
much.
bulk of the
My
work.
gosh,
Yep.
we just
Mhm.
agreed to be a sponsor of,
Basically, yeah.
of an item, yep.
Yep, so that was wonderful, and other than that, I don't have anything to report.
Very good, thanks. Ed?
Yeah,
Homer
well,
Fest?
obviously, we've already discussed the IGA, or
Right.
non-IGA, but tomorrow night is our Fest Committee meeting, and I know we'll be discussing an IGA. And also another big thing we will be discussing is the layout that I'm sure Commissioner DeVivo and the rest of the committee, along with John Robinson, will be looking at this very carefully, because it is 100 acres that we're gonna have to spread across this fest on. And that's it until next month.
Very good, thank you. Going on to open space planning and operations, Chairman Fian?
All right, we discussed some of this. The granary roof is completed. It looks pretty good. The new cupola is up there. Hopefully come spring we can spray some whitewash or something on the building to get it looking a little bit better. We are awaiting the right conditions to have the controlled burn out there. There has been some brush cleanup and things like that of the brush around the different buildings, the silos, so that it doesn't look like the forest that it's been in the past. And hopefully it'll control some of the people trespassing on the property. Kathy Pecora, one of our open space members, has resigned, so I'm looking for an approval from the board to accept her resignation.
You know what, I messed up, I did not put this on the agenda. Can we still accept the resignation or not, or should we wait till December? I knew I was missing something.
I never even thought about it, her letter wasn't in there. I mean, we can't very well say no, she's not gonna.
So we should probably just wait till next month, just do it that way, right? Yeah. Okay, I will add it in, I apologize. I'm sorry,
No problem.
I knew I forgot something, It's so crazy when we're putting this together.
All right, and then
I'm sorry.
we haven't, there's been no real action on rewriting the farm leases, so that's all I have.
Thank you, Tom. Then Ed and John for the Park and Rec Committee.
Okay, at our last meeting, Andrew from HAC was there, and he brought us some budgetary proposals for the fencing at the Sportsplex, which if you look, there are pictures in the board packet, if you had a chance to look at the pictures of the fencing. A lot of it's bad, okay? Actually, there's fence work needs to be done on all 4 fields. It was a consensus from the committee that we kind of move forward with this with an 80% contribution from HAC, and the rest would be 20%.
We were hoping he wasn't gonna catch it. Oh my gosh, he caught it.
Okay, 20%. I was ahead of myself.
Trying to get that on
Sorry,
camera.
you didn't get
Did you get that, Pat?
Unless you want to kick out 80%.
I could pay for 8%, it would be done, so.
Well, 20% coverage by HAC and the rest to be covered by the township. It was a consensus that the proposal or the budgetary proposal came from Cave Brothers was the best option, considering they were willing to spread the payment or the total cost over 2 budgets. Now, if I'm not mistaken, that was $35,000. Now, I was, quite honestly, and I was on the impression, Andrew, that Culver Park was involved in that too, but upon further notice or talking to the supervisor, it was not in that proposal. Because obviously, the fencing at Culver Park needs to be looked at, because that's also the pictures in the board packet. Now with that type of money, going out for bid is going to take some time. Upon speaking with Supervisor Myers earlier today, maybe do this on a job order contract to get, because I just wanted this on the agenda today to make sure that we move forward and not delay any time in getting this work done. I mean, so Pam, if you have
Well, yeah, we had talked about,
Yes.
that there is no other option. The township is still at a $20,000 threshold. I do know municipalities are at 25, but townships, the legislation had not changed. It is still 20,000. So, any of these proposals, and actually, that was the cheapest of some of the budgetary estimates you got. They weren't actual proposals, they were just budgetary estimates. So our normal course, and I believe Jerry would back me up, is anything over 20 would have to go out to bid.
Oh, sure.
So the only other way, right, the only other way that, and again, it's not strictly for the purposes of avoiding having to go out to bid, but we do participate in the Naperville job order contracting program, and all of those projects, all of the work from the organization that won the bid for this intergovernmental, it's sort of like joint purchasing agreement for the state, but this is of construction. And because all of this stuff was pre-bid already, and the firm was Passion that won the bid, we are able to do some of our programs through job order contracting. And I know, Andrew, you and I talked just a little bit about this on Friday too. We're not required to go with them if we if we do get a proposal from them, but if we did, and if we could bring that within, if we can define a scope very similar to what you gave to K Brothers, so that we were comparing apples and apples, we can get a line item estimate of cost from them, and that would allow us to bypass going out to formal bid. You know, again, we don't know what they're gonna come back with, but, you know, it could be more. But, like I said, we do normally put in a request, and then normally what they will do is they will set up a meeting with us. It's possible that, you know, maybe K Brothers is already a certified vendor for them. There's a lot of different options.
Yeah, I'd like to find out, because K Brothers, to be honest with you, was more than accommodating. The other, and they were on average about $20,000 less than the other two proposals, budgetary estimates that I got. The others weren't even interested in really quoting the job. They basically, one of the companies actually sold K Brothers to me and said, I'll give you a price based on the bigger field, you can times it by 4, and then give you an idea. They just didn't want the job. K Brothers, they've done work in the area. He talked about spreading out payments, he understood budgets, understood the fact that we're not-for-profit, the governmental issues that are involved in the red tape. So I would be against going towards any path of, 1, slowing the process up, but almost 2, having them cut out of the deal. Because like I said, they were the first one to come out. I'm still waiting for the last over 8 weeks now for a couple companies that I've had to chase 3 or 4 phone calls to even come back to me and set up an estimate. So it's like pulling teeth to even get these.
You know what, we do this all the time, so I understand exactly what you're saying.
I just wouldn't want them, K Brothers, to get cut out of the deal just by going a different path, even if it meant getting it done quicker or a few dollars.
Well, it's not a matter of, we don't, as a governmental entity, we don't really get to choose who gets to get the work when, you know, when we go out for bid or for proposals.
Get them cut out of the bidding process.
Right. Again, if we went out to a formal bid, I believe, for the most part, and again, I'm not an attorney or whatever, but I believe that since K Brothers only gave you a budgetary estimate, that if we had to go to a formal bid, they could bid on the project.
Oh, absolutely, but you know, the problem with that sometimes is that, you know, because of prevailing wage act in certifications, some companies look at that and they say, oh boy, this looks like a real pain. I'm going to add to, you know, the bid I would give to
this
a normal
prevailing
entity.
wage provisions. They all were made aware of that. So
Okay.
all the quotes included, they were all.
Then they absolutely would have a right to bid.
Right.
If we went to passion and the price, you know, there was a difference there, go to bids, no problem.
Same job done for less, obviously.
Right. The problem is, I told you, like with going, and you know what, it's not that I'm saying it's horrible that you have to go to bid, but, you know, nobody wants to delay, just like you're saying, you don't want to delay. So, normally, the average time frame for going to bid is anywhere between 2 and 3 months from the time you decide to, you know, prepare the scope until the final, when everything is in and it's been actually awarded, you know. So it is going to bid does slow things down, and most of us are not technical enough to unilaterally prepare scopes of work and do all this stuff, because when you put something in a bid, you're not going to get anything more than what's in the bid. So you want to make sure that you have everything spelled out in the scope of work. Many times, if it's beyond our expertise, as for example Culver Park, we will have to hire, you know, an engineering firm or professional services, or the attorney, to go through all of our documents and all of that. So it is a slow process. That's the point I'm trying to make. And there is no choice for the project, a project over $20,000. We are required by state law to go out to a formal bid, except for this one other option we're going to try. And if you work with me, Andrew, you know, we've worked together before. I'll, you know, try and have you in on any of the meetings with the contractors.
With the
see if
scope
we
of
can,
work that was.
yeah, if we can get the scope down to, you know, K Brothers and whatever, and get it relatively cheap. And you know what? Again, I don't know about K Brothers, but I will check, with, Passion with our job order contracting, if they even are aware of this. Would they be able to certify as a sub, or maybe they already are? I mean, we can find that out pretty quick. And, you know, I don't know, not all contractors want to be certified. I don't know why. I don't know what the certification process is, but in order for us to do it through this program, they do have to be certified. I'm assuming it has to do with this whole pre-bid thing and all the legalities of the law and whatever. But let's try this. We're not shackled by it.
Consensus is to
Well, I
have
think
you.
I would like to have a motion for me to go ahead and put in a request for job order contracting.
I'll make that
If
motion.
that's the direction the board wants to go.
I'll go ahead and make that motion.
Okay, so we have a motion to direct the supervisor to put in a request for a proposal from job order contracting for
The fencing at the sports.
similar scope with the K Brothers
Yes.
and, okay.
Absolutely.
So we have a motion by Kruzik,
Second.
second by Kalis. Any discussion?
Yeah. I'm looking at this fencing, and I'll be honest with you, I drove past there this morning and just didn't go out there. I'm looking, most of this fence just needs to be tightened up. I mean, there's lacing missing, there are some posts that are bad. I don't see where the fencing needs to be replaced, it needs to be repaired.
Yeah, but what pictures are you looking at, Tom? Are you
The
looking
ones
at?
in the
I'm
back.
looking at the back
Yeah,
side, which
those are
runs
culvert, that isn't even the discussion here.
well, even some of the other fence, it's just fencing that's not pulled up tight.
It is, and that's true, it's with the exception of the large, oldest portion at the complex that sets behind the township building. The majority of that, the $20,000 of the $36,000 is to repair the backstops. Those fencings are beat up, curved up. Stretching them, you'd probably break them, they're so old. They're fencing that as old as the complex, which is 20, at least, I played here when I was
25
18
years.
years old, they're at least 30 years old,
Okay.
the fence.
Well,
Should-
I still would like to see us see what it's gonna cost to repair versus replace.
It's like putting a Band-Aid on a broken bone, but,
Well,
I mean,
what-
it's.
you know,
I agree.
Can I offer, just for the sake of
Pam,
being,
I just want to add, in the paperwork that I handed you, that top page is a detailed description of the K Brothers quote, which really gets into the scope of the job.
Yeah.
So that's really, if you're looking
Appreciate
to
that.
write it up for apples to apples, that's right from K Brothers. And I told them, you know, to do
that makes
that, yeah.
it so much easier. I
Right.
really do appreciate it. Thank you,
Right.
Andrew. And just to go back, so for the sake of tonight and for being able to move on, we do have a motion on the floor. Tom, I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't have an opinion one way or another whether this is the way to go or not. But what I do have an opinion on is that we can do things simultaneously that will allow us to kill time so that we're not just taking things one thing at a time and languishing. What I personally would like to do is I would like to at least get going with the job order contracting and see what kind of numbers we come back at. If after we make a decision on this particular motion, you would also like to make another kind of a motion to, you know, get proposals or something, we can do those things simultaneously. But I think I'd like to stay directed on this particular, the job order contracting, and as you know, we're not bound to accept that. It would still have to come back before the board anyways.
Mhm.
So,
At least we're moving forward this
Yeah.
way, and that's
Yeah.
staying still.
yeah. So is there any further discussion?
I'm good.
All right, well, the clerk called the motion. I can't remember what it is.
Motion to request job order contracting with similar parameters to that of K Brothers.
Okay.
Budgetary estimate, motion by Kruzak, second by Kalis.
Okay. Will you call the roll?
Yeah,
please?
trustee Ofer,
Yes.
supervisor Myers,
Yes.
trustee Kruzak,
Yes.
trustee Fian,
Yes.
trustee Kalis.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Then, again, since we are on the subject, is there anything more than Tom, or do you want to hold off a little bit, or do you want us to?
Let's hold up and see where we're at.
Okay, okay. All right, anything else, guys?
No, that concludes my report.
Okay,
Thank you much.
thank you. Going on to George, our senior citizens and special needs advocacy chairman.
There was no November meeting due to the conflict with Election Day. We're due to meet on Tuesday, December 4th. That's all we have at this time.
Very good, thank you. Then under new business, you've been provided with a letter from the Will County Executive addressing the increased contamination of curbside collected recyclables that's having negative effects on the recycling efforts. At this point, it's really just asking us to join in the educational aspects of letting, sharing with everybody what is safely recyclable and what isn't. There's a lot of issues involved with trade with China and all different things, but the reality of it is, regardless of all of that, what is happening is that it is not only becoming more time prohibitive, but also is going to be more and more cost prohibitive for recyclables if people don't learn to recycle wisely. And so you were given the directives from the Will County Green and the links to the places. I, for example, didn't really realize that, like, for example, cans, okay, like cans, cans can be recycled. But I didn't realize you have to take the label off of them before you put them in there. I thought, well, paper, can, whatever. So it's really just an educational program to have cleaner recyclables so that we can still keep these recycling programs going, because whatever is getting recycled is not going into the landfills, and we all know landfills are a trouble and a cost in and of themselves. Other than that, I have nothing more under new business. I'm not sure that anybody else does. I have nothing under old business, and I am not aware of the need for an executive session.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
And we have a motion, we have a motion by Cusack, second by Alford. On the question, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained, none? We're good.